know freedom is never really free. We yearn and strive for government protecting our liberty.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Your Right to Know, brought to you by the Fitchburg Republican City Committee. Tonight, we're going to be doing something a little different, a special program on our own City Councilor at Large, Dean Tran. This is a first. It's an opportunity to have some fun, while we also share some special information with you. We collaborated on this show with a television program, As We See It, that is put on by our friends and neighbors, the Leominster Republican City Committee, having our own former mayor and FRCC member, Dan Mylott, interview Fitchburg's own city councilor at large, Dean Tran, as he enters the special election race for state senate. You know, Mayor, since the redistricting of the House of Representatives several years ago, Mass lost a House seat, and the twin cities of Leominster and Fitchburg were separated into two separate districts. This separation resulted in a loss of political collaboration between our cities, which we no longer have an opportunity to share our political activities. This election with Dean Tran has once again resulted in our ability to work with our Leominster friends. So before we begin the tape of your interview, let's share some highlights of what we're going to hear during the interview.
Well, as you probably know, I've known Dean for about 20 years. And I have been very friendly with him and with Kerry and his family.
He's got a fantastic family.
Yeah, and I know them very, very well. And it is an exciting thought that we're going to have one of our own people from Fitchburg representing us in the Senate in Boston. I think it's about time. I think it's important to the whole area that we have someone of this capability being able to represent us in the Senate.
You're absolutely right. Dean has a proven track record within the city. He has the motivation and the drive to help the city with the help that we desperately need. We need a voice for the city as well as our district to speak out in our favor, on the State House.
Well, that's very true. I think that Dean's record as a city councilor has been extraordinary. And it's all been focused on the people of the city. It's not the big guys, it's not the important people, it's the people of Fitchburg. And I think he'll bring that down to the Senate in Boston. He'll bring that representation of people. That's what we need in Boston. There's too many self-serving people representing us in the legislature.
I completely agree with you, Dan. Dean is, the people's counselor, and he's going to be the people's senator. You've known Dean. I've known Dean for quite a long time as well, but you've known him longer. Can you explain, Dean's history, how he came to the city?
Well, he came as an immigrant from Vietnam when he was younger, as a child, and his family ended up in Clinton. And their family grew up there. And then Dean found his way to Fitchburg. On the way here, he went to school in Boston, and then set himself up here in Fitchburg. And I think the story he tells, I don't want to tell the story.
Yes,
but the story he tells in the clip we're going to see is extraordinary. Everyone is just going to sit there in awe of what he has done and accomplished, and his whole family, for that matter.
I've reviewed the clip. It's a fantastic interview that you did. I think Dean, presents very well. He's a great guy, and he needs this interview was you did a great job with the interview. Dean did a great job. And I'm pleased to be able to provide this to our viewers today. And
when
what
you
sort
see
of
it.
what sort of information did you?
Well, we talked about what he's done on the city council and his focus on representing people from different parts of the city. And his big focus has always been on economic development and on economic responsibility on behalf of the city council. And he's always followed that. And he was tough when I was mayor, and he was always a great supporter of mine. But boy, if he had something to say about economics in Fitchburg and I wasn't doing what he wanted, I certainly heard about it in my office. And I found that to be invaluable. I mean, mayors need this kind of input from the people that are helping them, which is what city councils are supposed to do. And I got great advice from Dean, and I always appreciated what he had to say.
Dean is definitely fiscally conservative, and you know, he does watch where the money goes in the city.
Certainly does.
And it's actually will be a benefit to, you know, statewide, which is, you know, let's say that there's a lot of waste up on the in the State House. You know, a lot of the taxpayers' money, you know, is just wasted, and somebody like Dean is definitely needed up there, especially, you know, for our district. So what we're going to do is we're going to view the interview that that you did with Dean, and we'll be back.
America, we stand for freedom, though freedom is never really free. We yearn and strive for government, protecting our liberty.
Hello, my name is Gwen Meunier. I'm chairman of the Leominster Republican Committee. We would like to welcome you tonight to this special episode of As We See It. Our guest host today is former mayor of Fitchburg, Dan Mylott, and his guest is Fitchburg City Councilor and candidate for Massachusetts State Senate for the Worcester-Middlesex District, Dean Tran. Now to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Gwen. I am Dan Mylott. I am the former mayor of Fitchburg, and I welcome you all here today to have a little chat with my very good friend, Councilor Dean Tran from Fitchburg. Councilor Tran is running for the state senate, and we're very excited about that. And I'm going to ask him if he'll introduce himself.
Thank you very much, Mayor, for having me here tonight with you, and look forward to having a very fruitful discussion with you.
Well, I think we will. Can you tell everybody out there why you're running? What is your motivation for running for the Senate?
So first of all, I want to thank Senator Jennifer Flanagan for her years of service to the district, especially her focus on mental health issues and her fight on opioid addiction. I promise to carry on those efforts once I become the next senator for the district. Mayor, people are tired of all the politicians up in Beacon Hill who are there just to serve themselves. I'm running because I've always listened and worked for the people. I have a solid record on the Fitchburg City Council of listening and working for the people, and I want to bring that voice to Beacon Hill.
Well, we certainly need a new voice at Beacon Hill. And knowing you and knowing how we work together, I know that what your whole focus has always been on is on the people of the city, and you know what their needs are and what's important to them. And you have always fought against the status quo, and I've always appreciated that part. Can you give us an idea of the issues that you feel that you're going to deal with when you become the next senator?
Sure. Some of the issues include supporting our public schools, supporting our local fire and police departments, advocating for veteran and senior care, and just providing simple constituent services. I'm well known in the city on returning phone calls, emails, texts on all time of the day. So I plan on doing the same thing on the state level.
Well, we both know how important constituent services are. We understand that the phone always rings at the most inopportune time, but that's part of the job. And you've always been good at that, and you've always handled your constituency very, very well. The things you want to talk about, we only have a half an hour. Do you have a list of 2 or 3 that we could start talking about and see where we go from there?
I think one of the things that I would like to focus on, and because I have an extensive background on, is being able to bring some kind of tax relief and economic development and economic growth to the district. I believe I'm the only candidate so far on both sides of the aisle that have an extensive background in terms of managing people and products and projects in the private sector. In the last 23 years, I've been managing personnel and projects on 3 continents, being responsible for over $200+ million. And I believe I have the experience to go on the state level, attract businesses and corporations, being able to sit at the table with them and convince them to come to the district. We sorely need jobs in the district. We need to increase the median income in all the communities in order to attract commercial growth. And in the same token, we need to provide incentives and tax reliefs for these businesses to relocate. I know businesses are going through a tough time. They are burdened with a lot of costs, including mandate costs. Some of those costs include insurance, workers' comp, startup fees, and we have to make it easy for businesses to be able to relocate to the district, help us create jobs, and bring people to the cities, to the towns, and grow that tax base that most of the communities are dying for.
Well, that certainly has been something that we've all been trying to do, and now it would seem that the time is right to do that, to get together with the other cities and towns in our district and work together to bring people in to open businesses, to expand, and that's been lacking. So now it's time for that to happen. One of the things that you have also been very active in is education. Can you tell us how you're going to deal with educational issues in a city that Fitchburg has a lot of schools. The whole area has a great educational background that needs to be nurtured. How will you deal with the issue of education?
So I think you by now know that I have 4 children.
I do know that. Dell's a good friend of mine.
Yes, my oldest one is attending her 2nd year at UMass at Amherst. My other 3 are still attending the schools in the district, the public schools. I'm an advocate and a big supporter for additional funding for our schools. I think it's a big part in educating our children in order to have the kind of workforce we need in terms of competing with other countries. Fitchburg is surrounded by 2 incredible and tremendous colleges. That's the Mount Wachusett Community College and Fitchburg State University. I'm all in favor of making sure that these universities and colleges have the resources available to them in order to provide the kind of education we need to have the students be able to support the communities that they graduate from. On the local level, as you know, Chapter 70 is not well funded. The last time that the state legislature made any changes to Chapter 70 was back in 2007. We need to look at that. the formula is archaic and it's not equitable for the communities that it's supposed to serve. It needs tweaking, little tweaking such as allowing the communities to report their students after the February 1st instead of the current October 1st, because what happened is when schools report the number of students they have at the deadline of October 1st, from there to February 1st, the number changes and the formula, and it has a negative effect on the formula, and the community doesn't get or receive the proper funding that it's supposed to get.
To jump back onto the infrastructure, infrastructure is also buildings and bridges, and they're projects that are beyond the scope of any city and town being able to handle by itself. How will you deal with the Department of Transportation in Boston to make sure that the bridges and roads that they need to take care of get taken care of?
So I've been driving around across the district campaigning, and believe me, the roads and bridges are in terrible conditions. In the city of Fitchburg, I know the majority of complaints are because of potholes and because of the roads are so badly maintained, or because we don't have funding to maintain them. People have a tendency of ruining their cars, and they have a flat tire and they have a bad muffler, so they complain to the city. I'm a firm believer that we need additional funding for Chapter 90. As you know, the communities, especially those in this district, rely on Chapter 90 monies to pave their roads. Last year, Governor Baker signed an additional funding appropriation of $200 million, which is great, but I believe it's not enough. I think what we need to do is we need to agree on a multi-year bond in order to provide the necessary funding for the communities to pave their roads and fix the bridges. I know that there was a survey done on Chapter 90, and the survey said that on an annual basis, the Commonwealth need about $639 million just to maintain the roads in a repairable conditions. Right now, we don't even come close to that amount. So my hope, and as being the next state senator, I will be pushing for that.
The bugaboo about all of that is where does the money come from? And I know that we both understand how things work in Boston, and the money that we need is not coming to us the way it should. And the whole responsibility of government in itself is not being handled in a fiscally responsible way in Boston. How are you going to deal with that issue of overspending when the legislature has just overridden about 3/4 of the cuts that the governor made, and they just overrode those to about $275 million. So how are you going to deal with a legislature that is out of control?
Well, first of all, they are out of control in terms of spending. They are people who like to spend up there, but do not create any kind of mechanism in terms of generating new revenue. Coming from a private sector, I do a lot of managing. And part of managing, I prioritize things. And I can tell you one thing that I will be doing as the next state senator. I would look at the priority list. And for example, if there's an additional $18 million sitting on the table and you ask me how to spend that $18 million, I will look at funding schools, funding our road and bridges, funding our police and fire departments, supporting our seniors and veteran care. One thing I won't be doing is voting for a pay raise, and that's exactly what they did up in Beacon Hill. they used that $18 million and voted themselves a pay raise.
Well, I haven't heard a hue and cry about that, and I'm very disappointed in the fact that the people really haven't been outraged by that tremendous largesse that they gave themselves, and it really is disappointing. How about if you talk about yourself and about your history in Fitchburg and how you got to be where you are in such a prestigious position? You've been on the council for a lot of years now.
Yes, I have. Before I go into my elected position, allow me to tell you a little about myself. I was born in Vietnam, and at the age of 2.5, my parents fled the country. My father spent 25 years in the army fighting against communism, and because of his rank and what he did for the South Vietnamese army, we had to do something. They were business people back in the country, so they had to sell everything, saved every penny they had, and put all the kids onto a wooden boat, and we fled the country. We spent 2 years in a refugee camp in Thailand, and in that time period, we worked through the green card process. We waited for the process to go through, and once the determination came through, we were sponsored by a Catholic priest in Clinton, Massachusetts. That was really my first and true home, Clinton, Massachusetts, which is also in the district. So I spent 6 years in Clinton, went to the elementary school and a year in middle school, and then we relocated to Fitchburg in 1986. I went through the public school systems in Fitchburg, graduated from Fitchburg High School, and then went on to achieving my bachelor's degree from Brandeis University. I worked a couple years in Boston, and then decided to move back to Fitchburg, my hometown, to raise a family with my wife, Carrie. And we did. We raised a family, and I decided I should go into public service to create a better environment, a better place for my children to grow up in. And I did. I spent 4 years on the planning board. I served on the Fitchburg City Cable Oversight Committee. I served as a trustee on the Civic Center. And then in 2006, I was elected as a city councilor at large in the city of Fitchburg. Since then, I've been on the city council for 12 years. I love what I do, and that's because I serve the people. I'm also serving as a board of trustee member on the Mount Wachusett Community College board, as well as on the executive board for the Boy Scouts of America, as well as a corporator for the YMCA. So I'm quite a busy guy. But the most important thing in my life is spending time with my family. My wife, Carrie, is extremely supportive of everything that I do in my life, and I have a wonderful, wonderful 4 children. Isabel is my oldest one. As I mentioned, she's second year in college at UMass Amherst, and I have one in high school and 2 other ones at Crocker Elementary School. So I'm quite busy, as you know,
yes.
And I look forward to being the next state senator.
Well, we're looking forward to having you as a state senator. We think you're going to do a great job. I've known you for a number of years. You came on the council in my last 2 years as mayor, and you were a great councilor then, and you're a great councilor now, and I think you're going to be a great state senator, and we're going to look forward to seeing you in Boston.
That means a lot, Mayor, and you know my time on the city council, I don't just sit there as a city councilor. I've done many things.
Yeah.
With regards to writing legislations, with regard to supporting public safety, supporting our schools, and just simply serving the people as a city councilor. And I look forward to serving the people again on the state level as the next state senator for the Worcester-Middlesex District.
That's great. Can you tell us when we can vote for you?
Sure. The primary election will be on November 7th, and the special election will be on December 5th. You can get in touch with me through my website at deantran.com, or you can call me at 978-855-9622.
America, we stand for freedom. Though freedom is never really free, we yearn and strive for government, protecting our liberty.
Well, that was the interview of our Mayor Mylott and City Councilor at large, Dean Tran, who is currently running for State Senate. Dan, you did a fantastic job. I have to say, I was very informed, and you brought out the issues. It was really a great interview.
Yeah, it was. We had fun doing it. You know, when we were sitting there in that studio, we really had a good time. And
I mean, I'm excited to see that that Dean is going to continue the fight against the opioid epidemic that we have here in the district as well as in the state. You know, it's a continuing problem, and Dean is going to be right there on the forefront.
yeah, he's said that, and he gave great accolades to Senator Flanagan for her efforts on the opioid crisis.
He did. He did.
And she has done a great job.
And he also wants to support the public schools, Chapter 70. You know, our public schools are in desperate need of funds, and also the support of the local police and the fire departments. You know, that's a huge undertaking to be able to provide the support needed for our people. And also the support of veterans. You know, that's an issue that goes to the heart of a lot of people, me especially. You know, as you know, I have veterans in my family, and a lot of my friends are veterans. And his continuation on his policy for providing excellent support for constituent service. Dean is a man of the people. You know, he's very approachable, and he will provide information. In fact, he also provided his website, deantran.com, and he also offers his phone number in the interview for people to call him in order to ask questions, ask for information about him. He really is a man of the people.
He is. He's going to do a great job. The other thing we haven't even mentioned today is the insane spending that's been going on in Boston.
Oh, yes.
Boy, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
You know, he's aware of that, and he's aware that we have to be responsible for what we spend.
Oh,
And
I completely
that
agree.
has been lacking.
I agree. The current people in the State House, they just take our tax money and just throw it away, pretty much. There's no accountability in the State House as to where our money is going. They think it just comes from the sky, but actually it comes out of our wallets. It comes out of our paychecks. And that's going to be getting Dean up there is going to help us quite a bit, save some money and keep some money in our pockets as well. So we would like to thank you, and we also want to thank Leominster Republican City Committee in their show, As We See It. We also want to thank Mayor Mylott and Dean Tran for providing their time for this interview. We thank you for watching Your Right to Know and sitting with the FRCC. As we leave you, we want you to remember that your local city and town Republican Committee is the only grassroots organization that supports and holds dear your liberty and constitutional rights and conservative values. We encourage you to join us. Why? Because to us, GOP stands for growth, opportunity, and prosperity, and because we always stand for freedom. Thank you for joining us tonight, and have a good evening.